A $33 trillion question looms over America and the world. What happens when a country, burdened by decades of borrowing, finally hits its debt ceiling? Will it lead to economic collapse, or is there a way out of this financial trap? Welcome back to our playlist, Economic Cycles and Shifting Global Power. This is part 6, What Happens When National Debt Hits the Ceiling? If you missed part 5, where we explored China versus America, who will lead the next global order? Be sure to check it out. Now let's unravel one of the most pressing economic challenges of our time, the escalating national debt crisis. Imagine a future where government shutdowns become routine, where inflation spirals out of control, social programs crumble, and global trust in the dollar evaporates. This isn't just a distant nightmare, it's a potential reality. And it all hinges on one question: what happens when national debt hits the ceiling? Let's start with the basics. The debt ceiling is the maximum amount of money a government is allowed to borrow to pay its bills. When this ceiling is reached, the government can no longer borrow, forcing it to choose between defaulting on its debts or slashing spending. In the United States, the debt ceiling has been raised over 100 times since its inception in 1917. But in 2024, with the national debt exceeding $33 trillion and a debt-to-GDP ratio of 125%, raising the ceiling is no longer just a quick fix. It's a sign of a much deeper problem. The seeds of America's debt crisis were planted decades ago. From the 1980s Reagan-era tax cuts to the 2008 financial bailout and the 2020 COVID-19 stimulus packages, the U.S. has relied on borrowing to fuel its economy. But borrowing comes at a cost. Today, over $1 trillion is spent annually just on interest payments, a number that grows as interest rates rise. And the United States isn't alone. Global debt has reached a staggering $300 trillion, with many nations facing similar challenges. The question is no longer, how did we get here, but how do we get out? To understand the future, we must look to the past. Take Weimar Germany in the 1920s. Faced with massive debts after World War I, the government printed money to pay its bills. The result? Hyperinflation so extreme that people burned cash for heat because it was cheaper than firewood. Or consider Greece in the 2010s. When its debt crisis spiraled out of control, austerity measures crippled its economy, leading to protests, riots, and a decade-long recession. Are we destined to repeat these mistakes, or can we chart a new course? So, what happens when a country actually hits its debt ceiling? First, government services could shut down. In the U.S., this means federal employees go unpaid, social programs like Medicare and Social Security are disrupted, and infrastructure projects grind to a halt. Second, financial markets could panic. If investors lose confidence in a country's ability to pay its debts, interest rates skyrocket, making borrowing even more expensive. And finally, the global economy could face a ripple effect. Since the US dollar is the world's reserve currency, a default would destabilize international markets, affecting everything from trade to investment. So what can be done to address this crisis? Some economists argue for reducing spending through cuts to social programs and defense budgets. Others propose raising taxes on corporations and the wealthy to generate more revenue. There's also the controversial idea of simply printing more money, though history warns us of the dangers of this approach. But perhaps the most radical solution is debt restructuring, renegotiating terms with creditors to make repayments more manageable. Each option comes with its own risks and rewards. The question is, which path will we choose? Now we want to hear from you. Do you think the debt ceiling is the most critical issue facing the economy today? What solutions do you believe could work to address the national debt crisis? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to start a conversation. And don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more in-depth videos like this one. In Part 7, we'll explore how technology is reshaping global power dynamics. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching Part 6 of Economic Cycles and Shifting Global Power. Join us in Part 7, where we'll delve into how technological advancements are redefining global power. See you there.